Hey everyone, and welcome back to Minding My Mental Health. I am Tenitria Williams, licensed professional counselor, and I have with me the beautiful, the fantastic Pastor Sheretta Golladay. Welcome, Pastor Sheretta. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you, beautiful, for having me. I'm so honored and I'm so excited. We got a lot to talk about.
We are going to give everybody a moment to jump on. Everybody knows what I want you to do. Hashtag live if you are watching us live, and let us know where you're watching from, and hashtag replay if you are watching the replay. I'm going to make sure it's on my page. Make sure we're all good here. Yep, there we are. I'm going to share this to a couple groups that I belong to because people need to hear.
Love it. All right, I've shared it.
There we go. All right. So again, welcome everybody. And let's jump into this. We appreciate you. And most of you know that I've been doing this. This is episode number 10 of Minding My Mental Health. So yay, shout out to getting up here doing this. And what I want to do through this platform is to tear down the stigma of mental health. And I was actually just talking to Pastor Sheretta before we came on, and I was expressing one of the things that I feel like we want to do is to make sure that you see people who are successful and living their life out loud, but to want you to see a little peek into how people who are winning and doing amazing things are dealing and taking care of their mental health. Oftentimes we have a negative stigma when we hear about mental health. We wanted you to see, hey, we all have to take care of our thinking, our mindsets, so that we can continue to do great things. So with all of that being said, let's talk to Pastor Sheretta. Pastor Sheretta, tell us kind of who you are and what you do. Who is Sheretta Golladay?
Sheretta Golladay, girl, who are you now? I am a multifaceted woman that loves God tremendously and tremendously loves people. I wear a lot of hats. When I try to explain it to people, it's like a tree with a lot of branches. I'm a mom. I'm almost 35 years this year. I am a nana to three. I'm obviously a mom, like I said before. I'm a serial entrepreneur, have multiple businesses. I'm a pastor, a speaker, a faith coach, just a lot of different things. But the most important thing is my love for God and for people.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I know you have had, like you said, multiple businesses. And so, kind of what led you down that path of being an entrepreneur?
What led me was so many years ago, I had gone through, one day we'll have to talk about some things in the past, but I had gone through a lot of stuff and I allowed those things to dim my shine. And so I founded Recapture Your Sparkle, which is the parent company to Sparkle Girl. And so I love lip products. And so I launched a lip line called Sparkle Girl Lip Shine. And so all of the names of the items are something telling you who you are. You're beautiful, you're amazing. And Sparkle Girl is not a name, it's me telling you to shine, telling you to sparkle.
That's
So
beautiful.
like every time you pick it up and you look at the tube and you're putting it on, it reminds you to shine. And so from that, I went into everyday travel handbags. I wanted to do a luxury line. So all of it, the makeup is luxury, handbags are luxury. We also are Toro hosts, so we have luxury cars for rent if you're ever in Tampa. So it started from that, just a mantra to remind women to shine and to be all that God has created them to do. And so I host getaways and different events and travel all over the world, ministering, to women all over the world. And so that's the way it started. It started with some lip shine, all because I was trying to recapture my own sparkle.
So you mentioned you allowed someone or situations to kind of dim your light some. What are some of those other pressures that you felt through being an entrepreneur or even through being a pastor? Because both of those can be real
Woo,
heavy
yes.
on the stressors, right? So what stresses have you faced and how have you overcome or how are you overcoming those?
So the stresses that I face, it kind of goes back to how I was raised.
Mm,
Obviously, my mom was a major fixture in my life, my grandmother as well. And so when my grandmother passed away, just as a little backstory to make it make sense. My grandmother was like, okay, my mother was an only child. And so she was like, okay, Sheretta, I'm putting my hand in your hand, so I'm giving it over to you like the mantle, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I need you to take care of your mom. And so I was like, what, 16 or so? And
Wow.
so I was always trained to prefer my mom. I was trained and raised to care for people and to serve people, but I did it to detriment,
Mm.
right? I'm talking about all across the board. Like your pastor, my friend says, Shun, you set yourself on fire to keep everybody else warm. And so that's how I literally lived my life for a very long time.
Mm.
I stayed on fire while other people.
And not the good fire.
Yes, I stayed on fire while other
Mm-hmm.
people were warm. It was just like I was nowhere on the list. It was always other people in front of me. I'm doing this for that person, doing it. And so you just feel like you, especially as a pastor, you feel like, for me, when I first started pastoring, my phone was always on. It was people, I was always available. I mean, 24/7, like 7-Eleven, all of that. And it was so unhealthy because you think you have to be all things to all people. And then one day God said, you're supposed to be, you're in my image and my likeness. You're a representation of me. You're not me. So
That's good.
you follow me? So it took a minute for me to adjust, because literally for the better part of my life, or the biggest part of my life, that's always how I govern myself. And people will allow you to do it. And so even in being an entrepreneur, so you pastoring, and then you add those elements of an entrepreneur. And so I personally think, no shade to the people who work a 9 to 5, but when you have your own thing, you work longer and harder, and you have to really be intentional about turning stuff off. And so the way my brain is wired, or how I was wired, it's like, man, I didn't even get in my flow good, and it's 9 o'clock. I got to keep going.
Right.
And so I'm a lot better, but there's still more progress to be made.
So how does
I'm no
that,
longer keep making myself on fire. I can say that.
you no longer put on fire? Is that
Exactly.
what you're saying? Okay.
Douse
How
that.
does that mentality of I got to do for everybody, I have to basically get the job done no matter what cost, what toll does that take on your mental health?
You're going to break down at some point. You're going to break down. The problem is you have to keep moving in order to ignore the signs that you're suffering.
Ooh.
You got to keep moving.
Talk about that.
You got to keep moving, because the moment you stop and you pause, you'll begin to feel all of the effects of it. Because obviously we're believers. As a man thinks, so in his heart, so is he. Our thinking is the CPU to our life. And so the moment you stop and you allow yourself to think about what you walk through, what you're dealing with, or whatever, things start to affect your body. And I know for me, it definitely affects my body. And so as long as I was moving, it's like keep busy. It's like the person who's trying to avoid dealing with an issue. So they keep doing stuff just so they don't have to deal with the issue. They got to keep going.
No, I think that's really powerful. And I see somebody saying the pause is when everything crashes. Yeah. So you have to give yourself the opportunity to even process, which is why I think people do keep going sometimes, because they don't want to actually look at some real issues that are there. And I tell people all the time, you can't conquer what you refuse to confront. And so many times we're just like, oh, nope, it's good. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm grinding. I'm going. But if you don't ever stop and say, I have to take care of me, yeah, it takes a huge toll on our physical bodies.
Right. You got to put you on a ticket. I wasn't on the ticket.
Yes, let's put you on the ticket. So you said here, or I know that you have a health diagnosis, and I just say diagnosis because that's Tell me what that diagnosis is and how you have push through that, and how you live with that diagnosis and take care of your body and your mental health through that.
Great question. So when I was 30 years old, I'll be 55 next month.
But you're fine.
I received, thank you. When I was 30 years old, I was diagnosed with lupus. Well, there are different types of lupus, but the one that I was diagnosed with is called SLE, which affects every part of your body. And it took a while for them to diagnose it because it's not something that you just go to the doctor for one time. It's a series of tests, a series of time, all that great stuff. And so I would have bouts of remission where it would quiet and then where it would be loud or what have you. For me, the toll that it took on me, so I don't ever want, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I don't ever want it to discredit anyone's pain. Like if you have a headache, that headache for you can be astronomical, where somebody else can go and get some Aleve. I got a prop right here, some Aleve, right? This doesn't help people with chronic pain. So for me, the issue produced chronic pain. And chronic pain is when you're in pain all the time. And most of the time, they don't have anything to stop you from being in, in chronic pain. Unfortunately, I am now in a season right now. It's the very first time I'm saying this on your show, that I'm in a season right now where I'm experiencing chronic pain. I've had some bouts with it in the past where it was for a long time. Then I had a great time when it wasn't happening, and now it started to the point like when I came to Live Your Dreams, I was in pain. And so mentally, if I can just be candid, and I'm just going to be candid, you just want it to stop. You literally just wanted to stop. There was a time in the past, many years ago, where I literally contemplated suicide. And it wasn't that I wanted to kill myself. And that's the thing I need people to understand. Sometimes when people are contemplating suicide, it's not that they want to kill themselves. They just want to rid themselves of whatever the pain is they're experiencing. And for me, when I say incessantly, when I say all the time, I'm talking about even in your sleep. I'm talking about you can't even sleep through the night. Like, I don't care what you do. It was just horrible. And during that time, my skin hurt. So my clothes hurt. If the wind brushed my skin, it would hurt. Like, it was just so crazy. And I remember one time looking on my bed, because we had this headboard at the time that had a shelf on it. And I would have my medicine tucked in the corner because I would have to like reach back and grab it. And I was like, girl, you could just make you a cocktail and go to sleep. All I wanted to do was go to sleep. I didn't want to die. I just wanted to go to sleep. But if death was the thing to get me out, then I was like, hey, I'm just gonna go be with Jesus, and it's gonna be us. And so it's a real thing. And so mentally, for me, the way my mental health, is affected in that, I have to get above those thoughts. Like I consider climbing a ladder. Like there have been, like, Minister Tiffany is on here. She's been with me in some of my most painful moments and can attest to some of the things that I'm saying. Like, I'm not in there, and no shade to anybody, but I'm not in there screaming. I'm quiet. Right. When I get quiet, what's happening is I'm trying to get above the pain in my mind. Because if I can get there in my mind, then I can manage, where I am. But there have been times where depression, where I was depressed. Do I know I'm healed? Yes, because I believe the word of God. You see the shirt, faith is the proof. That's my proof, right? I believe if I was healed, I am healed. However, it doesn't mean I still don't feel stuff. And so when people that have never had chronic pain and all they had was a headache, no shade to your headache, don't talk.
It's not the same.
That's like me trying to coach somebody in mental health, and you've gotten this, the certifications, and you went through all that. I can't do that. I'm gonna send them to you. I just know my own experience. Right. I'm sending them to you. And so, and I'm a believer. Obviously, I believe God. However, I don't control the manifestation. The Bible says with God, all things are possible. Possible. I believe the word. However, that doesn't mean that I don't feel anything.
You don't feel that, right?
And so
tell me more how, when you say I have to get above those thoughts or above the pain, tell me what that looks like practically.
So practically what that looks like. So what I would do is I might put on some worship music, or if I don't have access to anything, I literally would go inside myself and I would begin to talk to myself where I could hear me. And I would quote scriptures, and I would tell myself, it's okay, you got this. God is with you. You have amazing doctors. I had, and I still have a great support system. I allowed myself to be vulnerable. And so that's important. When you're dealing with, for your own mental health, you got to have people around you that you can be vulnerable with and be like, yes, this hurts. This is painful. This is how I'm feeling today. And they be okay with you and not looking at you. Oh, I am Pastor Sheretta. I'm Pastor Sheretta. I'm Sheretta. I'm Betty's daughter. I'm Shay's mama, David's mom. I'm James' wife. I'm all of the things all in one. However, at this time, this is what I'm experiencing. And so you got to have people in your life that you can be real with and say, I'm struggling today. This pain is on 9,000. And my husband hates when I say this, but I do. I have a very high pain threshold. So if I say I'm in pain, or you have the ability to see it because I've gotten good at masking it, I'm in trouble. And so I literally would speak to myself, and then, get there in my head. Okay, you can do this. Just breathe. And I would do breathing exercises because I will really want to scream. I will really want to kick over stuff. I would really want to just shout and act a fool. I mean, because I'm just like, help, 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 help. But I know, I've been a caregiver and I've also been a patient. And I believe that even though I'm in pain, that doesn't mean that I'm supposed to treat the caretakers. So just trying to deal and then crying. Oh, what? Crying is a release. It's like, God, I'm hurting. I know you see me. I know you see me. I'm crying. So I would just do these things to get above it in my head. Now, when I talk to people who were always going to be like, trying to, well, do you believe God? Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me, because you wouldn't ask me that if you really knew me. You understand what I'm saying? Because I think sometimes people think because you feel that you're not in faith, and that's not true.
That's good.
It's just not true. And I would talk to the people, I would only have certain people around me that I felt like I could be vulnerable with. They wasn't trying to get me to preach a message. It wasn't my time to counsel them or whatever. It's just like, this is where I am. And so that's how I would do it. Sometimes that worked. A lot of times it worked, and sometimes it didn't.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned your support system. How do you utilize your support system just to get through tough times like that?
Now, I've always had a support system, but I didn't utilize them because I was in this superwoman syndrome foolishness. Okay. But now, because I realized God created us for community. Like,
when did your now start, by the way?
My now started, let me see, I'm 54, the beginning. Now, mind you, I'm going to preface it by saying this. It started, doesn't mean I had mastered it then. It started probably in my 40s.
Okay. So right? You've been nowing for a little while.
I've been nowing for a minute. Okay. Now I'm on the other side. I'm on the other side now, but yeah, it started in my 40s.
Okay.
And so the way I utilize them is I had to break up and dismantle this thinking, because it wasn't even just people about the faith piece or what have you. It was me too, and so I had to dismantle this thinking like I'm weak because I'm asking for help when I'm supposed to be. No, it takes strength to ask for help. It takes strength to say, hey, I'm weak. These people love you. It's okay to be vulnerable. But I always felt like I had to protect myself. That's for a whole nother interview, because there's a reason behind that, right? So I came out of.
If you want to come back, just say that, Pastor Sheretta.
You said what?
If you want to come back, just say that.
I'm just saying, because it would take up a whole lot of time. But hey, bring me back. But and so I was always, I cannot be vulnerable, literally. So who y'all see today, I was not like that. I wasn't this person when my husband married, because I didn't come from that. We weren't emotional. We didn't tell each other we loved each other growing up. None of those things. So so I grew into it, and God evolved me. And so I literally will reach out to, the people in my support system, my husband, my children, my friends, hey, I'm struggling. Pray for me. Okay, this is what's going on, and then it depends upon what was happening, because like the whole of my support system isn't always privy to every single thing. This is the same stuff, right? You got to know who needs to hear what, because you might have somebody, and please understand, everybody's place is amazing. It's important. Okay, I don't need you to quote a scripture to me that I know. I need you to hear me.
Yeah.
So you got to be sensitive enough to know when, because if you're trying to talk somebody off the cliff, you can't be rough and tough. Get off the cliff.
No, I'll for a minute, because so I've heard a lot of people dealing with chronic diagnosis, and their support system really does have a heart to help them, but they don't know how to hear them.
Right. Ooh. Ooh. We just got to sit there for a second. That's the truth. And that's why sometimes people don't say anything, because it's like, okay, how can I say this? I'm supernatural, however, I'm also human. Come on, right? And so I hear you got to know what to say, when to say it, or if to say anything at all.
Or if, right.
Sometimes it's just you physically being there. Sometimes it's you getting lunch, getting a glass of water, coming through, sitting. You know, when my daughter, she had, if I may, last year my daughter had a near-death experience. Her blood they said her blood was septic. And at the time they didn't know what was going on. And mind you, let's put a pin right there. My mother, that's how she ended up passing away. So, you know, the enemy trying. I was like, this was something different. Okay. So when I would sit with my daughter, y'all might imagine I'm in there like this, in the name of Jesus. I wasn't doing that. I would just sit there. I was her mama. Even though I'm spiritual, I'm her mama. I was serving her. I was aiding her. I would lay hands and pray over her when she was asleep, or, we would talk from time to time. It's like when you're dealing with someone in any kind of crises, right? You got to be sensitive to know where they are and what to do, or if not to do anything. And then you can't be tripped out if they don't reach out to you, because maybe you're not the person for that particular moment.
And sometimes you're not the person because you have responded in a way that they didn't need. And so they said, I don't want to talk to you right now.
Right.
Yeah. That's powerful. And I think I want to teach people that aspect of sometimes you can be in faith and not throwing out a scripture. You can still stand with your friend, your family member in faith and say, hey, I'm here for you to be with you. And I'm still praying for you, but you don't have to hear me, rubbing oil on your forehead and trying to knock you down. I think there is that balance. So,
right. And trying to push you to produce a miracle. Like, I am not the miracle worker. I work for the miracle worker. I'm in partnership, but I am not, the miracle worker. Again, it's a matter of knowing what to do, when to do it. And sometimes you mentioned something you said about faith. Faith is seen. Faith doesn't mean I am, and it's important, mind you, it has its moments in time, quoting scripture, because I can pray for you in private, but then show up for you and just be there. It's just like, you got to be sensitive and know what's happening. The fact that I showed up for you, that's me operating in faith. The fact that I'm there, being there to be a listening ear, that's to me operating in faith. You just don't, why is this important? Because you don't know where a person is. That's the thing. You don't know. Just because somebody might say, well, Pastor Sheretta, you're a woman of faith. You was thinking about suicide. Have you ever had chronic pain before? So when I hear people that kill themselves or unalive themselves, I don't know the appropriate, but I feel for them. And while you see people making comments about, they selfish, this, blah, blah, blah. For them, it wasn't selfish. For them, they may have felt like they were a burden to people because of whatever ailment they had or whatever. They were trying to just get an immediate result. You understand what I'm saying? They were trying to get an immediate result for where they were. And when I see people comment and stuff, when I see things like that happen, I'd be like, see, you somebody I couldn't even talk to. Because I probably would have just took the pills and went to sleep, because I just stopped talking to you. I'm just saying. And so we just have to be sensitive, you know, when it comes to hearing, because I believe that God, not just believe, I know God will literally show you exactly what that person needs in that moment. And sometimes it's just silent. Oh, what happened? Oh, my Lord. Uh-oh. Ooh, that part. This is good, Melanie Brown. Ooh. I'm still here.
You're
Oh,
still
okay.
here. I had some internet issues. We have some heavy winds, and I could see you on my computer.
Okay. I didn't know.
I was like, she's still going. Well, good job, Pastor Sheretta.
Because I was like, what happened? What's going on? Okay, we back. We unfrozen.
You're back. Yes, I am sorry. I could, yeah, I was like, well, she's
Listen,
still
that's the
going,
thing
so
with
good job.
technology. You can't control signals. That's the thing with technology. But like I was saying, you just have to really be, sensitive. Um, and you can be in faith with that person and for that person, but badgering them is not going to help them. And so for me personally, I shut down internally when somebody is trying to maneuver or try to create something that just isn't happening, or just kind of cast off some feelings or whatever. Because I'm like, have you ever been in chronic pain? Is not like regular pain, y'all. I pray that none of y'all ever experience chronic pain. But if you have, you know what I'm saying. Chronic pain is not like regular pain. Chronic pain is 24/7. And so, like I was saying, I'm in a season right now. This is the very first time I've said it publicly. There are people that are close to me know it, but publicly, where I'm experiencing chronic pain. Literally, when I was at Live Your Dream, shout out to Pastor Shun, it was absolutely amazing, right?
It was.
There were moments I could barely walk.
Mm.
I mean, and if I may I?
Yeah.
After I left Live Your Dreams, I ain't gonna tell y'all can use your imagination. I ain't gonna tell y'all. You're gonna see what I'm talking about in a minute. After I left Live Your Dreams, I caught the train and met my husband in Fort Lauderdale. I was in Fort Lauderdale that Monday. I got home that Monday morning. I was in Fort Lauderdale Monday night. There until Thursday. Thursday, I have an accident where I fall.
Oh my gosh.
I've never fallen, except for when it first 30 years ago. The way I found out that something was wrong, I walked into my bathroom and I collapsed. This was the first time I had fallen. When I say fall, I mean bruised up, swollen, the whole nine. Had to go to the hospital. It was crazy. Now the good thing about that was God had told me, He was like, okay, you falling, I know that it's painful, but there's something else that's going to be revealed in this. Well, two things happen. I go, my husband and I, we end up ministering and praying for the staff, there. But then the doctor, because of the tests and stuff they were running and all of that, they were like, okay, we see something in your hip. There's something going on with your hip that my other doctors didn't see. Right? Now, that's not why I failed, but as a result of falling and going to be seen. And so I could barely walk. It was just the most painful thing. Can't sleep, so I'm talking about like right now. But am I in a space where I'm like, oh, I want to go be with the Lord? I'm done with this. No. However, I'm doing those exercises that I'm telling you about. And then I'm also working, believing God, and also working it alongside my doctors. I was getting pain injections. Before I even got to Arkansas, getting pain injections and stuff. Because this is a thing about believers sometimes. We got to be very careful where, yes, we know that God can do a miracle. God is the one who decides the miracle, right? We believe God. We receive the word. I know I'm healed. I tell people that all the time. Like, I really, really believe. I know it. However, that's not going to stop me from going to the doctor, because God can, he can
Right.
do it instantaneously. He can work through the medication. He can
Right.
do it through a procedure. He is at the core of whatever way he
Absolutely.
decides to bring this thing about. But I will be candid and say, we're talking about mental health. I had moments recently where I just literally cried, and I was like, because I know what chronic pain in a big season of that feels like. I know how I felt. I was in the bed probably 90% of the time.
Wow.
In the bed.
How does that impact your relationships? Because you have, and I know you have good people in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at sometimes is it, well, I don't get to go to these things, or I'm missing out. Like, how does that, or how do you navigate the impact of that on your relationships?
You miss out on a lot of stuff. You kind of start to isolate. Like, you have to get really intentional about not isolating yourself. It definitely affects everything. Your marital, being able to do stuff with your grandchildren, just going out. Like when I moved here and in Tampa, and I had bouts of pain, but now, like I said, here for a while now, it's become chronic. I had to join one of the reasons why you've probably seen this if you follow me on social media. I started to learn how to swim. So I was trying to conquer that fear, but also I was like, I've got to get out of this building, because if I don't intentionally get out of the building, I'm in trouble, because I felt myself staying in the bed. Everything was in my bed, my computer, everything, anything I needed to do, I'm doing it in the bed, because I'm in pain. And I recently told my husband this. I said, babe, let's continue believing God. I said, I'm just being candid, back to the relationships that you talked about and how I handle it. And I articulated to him, because I used to have a habit of kind of bottling it up, which doesn't help at all. That actually makes your body worse. And so I'm like, listen, I said, I feel like I'm regressing physically, like I'm going back to what once was, where I couldn't walk. In Arkansas, on the way back at the airport, I had to get a wheelchair.
Wow. So the fact that I saw you in Arkansas, and I saw you, like, being you, right? Maybe you weren't jumping as much or whatever, but you were, if somebody on the outside looked in, they wouldn't necessarily say, oh, I bet she's in some chronic pain. And I know there are a lot of people who do the isolation where you're still kind of moving. What advice would you give to somebody, or what feedback to somebody who's struggling with, whether that's chronic pain or just a chronic diagnosis that flares up, or like, what would you say to people who are struggling with that, and how they can keep themselves strong mentally and taking care of their body as much as possible?
Be vulnerable. So isolation starts inward first. And what I mean by that is you stop being open and telling people how you're really feeling, what you're struggling with or what you're going through. Like, a believer and struggle, it just doesn't seem to go together. But whether it goes together or not, there are believers who struggle in different areas of their life, and so I would say, open up, get somebody that you can talk to and say, listen, this is what's happening. This is where I am, because the less you talk, the more you're going to isolate yourself inwardly. And the danger of that, the enemy wants us to be isolated. He wants us to draw back and to draw within ourselves, and nothing good comes out of that. You need other people. You need people, whether they're to listen, whether they're praying, whether they're just being there. You need to be able to articulate it. Like, I know where lupus came from. If you were to ask me, I could tell you where it came from.
So I got to ask, where did the lupus come from?
So the cliff notes to this is, when I was 12 years old, I was raped. You're going to have to get the book when I finish it. When I was 12 years old, I was raped, and then I was molested up until I was 16. And then I moved from my mother to my grandmother at 16, and because my mother's boyfriend at the time, and I didn't know what she was going through with his crazy, but at the time he tried to kill me. He tried to molest me. And so he put a knife to my throat. Somehow my father gets wind of it. He comes, it was like a Western. He comes walking down the road with a sawed-off shotgun in the middle of the day.
Oh
get
my
me to my
gosh.
grandmother, because I told her, I said, listen, if y'all don't come get me, somebody's going to die. I am going to die, or he's going to die. And I thought it was going to be me because he was stronger than me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so for years I went through this, and then I had some things happen as early as an adult. Once I'm out, I had some stuff happen, and it created a lot of trauma and some soul
Yeah.
trauma for me, and I wouldn't talk about it.
Mm.
So I internalized it. So anytime anything happened to me that was difficult, I internalized it. I can accurately articulate every bad thing that has ever happened in my life. But if you were to ask me back then growing up,
Right.
and prior to getting married, name some good things, I probably can't remember them. That's
Mm.
how intense the trauma was.
Right.
But there was no mental health, right? Awareness. There was
Mm-hmm.
no talk to anybody. It was that what happens here, finish it.
Yeah. Stays
Uh-huh.
here. Right.
Right. So there was none of that. And so, what I did was I would turn it outward, and I would just serve people. I would just serve people, and people were like, oh my
So you
God,
never dealt with it internally. I'm
no.
gonna be a great, nice person.
Oh, yes. And people loved it. Like it was like I was seeking validation and love.
Mm-hmm.
So because I'm like, these people that hurt me don't love me. It was the craziest stuff. And so now I've morphed into this thing where people are taking advantage of, my giving, my time, my
Mm-hmm.
talent, my money, just the whole nine. And
I
so
gotta.
when I let it go, I'm
Mm.
trying to remember when Sean did her first soul shift. I was one of the four. I was one of
Uh-huh.
the four that flew to Arkansas. And that's when it began for me. That was the
Wow.
first time I cried. My husband, prior to that, he had never seen me cry. My kids were like, do you have tears? Well,
Wow.
y'all don't understand. Listen,
Wow.
I had never cried. Don't touch me. Don't sit on me. Don't. And so all of it just, that's when it burst when I came, to Arkansas. And so I've been on that journey for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a whole lot better, but that's where lupus came from. It was a
So,
generalized trauma.
wow, I heard you say something that was really powerful. People were okay with, and I won't say okay, they may not have known, but
Mhm.
I will say people will be okay with you being unhealed as
Mhm.
long as you're doing what they need you to do. And you were like, I was being so sweet. I was internally, I was messed up, but
Mhm.
externally,
Mhm.
I was the face of generosity and love
Mhm.
and care. And so sometimes we have to, just to the people watching, I want to encourage everybody to make sure that we actually listen and check on people
Mhm.
who are always happy and smiling and giving and doing all of those things. That's great. We can appreciate it, but sometimes we need to make sure we're saying, how are you on a deeper level, and not just go, fine, okay.
Right.
But let me ask you one more time. How are you really?
Right.
Um,
But
so
you,
I appreciate that insight that you got when you went to start dealing with the soul shift. And tell me some other breakthroughs and mindsets now that you started that process that have taken place over the years.
and let me just say this real quick. So it was also like a lifeline to me,
Mm.
for them to need me. And
Mm.
this is for
That's
some of
so
these people
good.
out here that always need to be needed. There's a reason why you always need to be needed,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like a trophy. Like, you might really love
Talk about it.
people, but it's a trophy, and it makes you feel good because there's nothing else in your life where you feel good. So that's the thing that makes you feel good. But then it becomes the Loch Ness monster. And
Yeah,
you're
I want
right.
to just.
Some people do know, but some people don't know. But I was in, listen, y'all know I'm a pastor, so I'm not anti-church. I'm not anti. I was in, who can be in 10 ministries at the same time and running most of them? Come on, y'all. I was in, what was I doing? We talked about this earlier. As long as I was moving, I
Mm.
didn't have to look at it. I didn't have to feel. The moment I started to feel, oh, let me go do something else. You need me to do something? Everywhere, people wasn't even placing that. Sometimes they were placing a demand on me, but a lot of times I was
It
putting
was you.
myself in demand.
Mm-hmm. I just want to ask, can anybody else relate to that idea of, I'm going to put myself out here and I'm going to stay so busy that I never have to think about the stuff I've gone through, or I'm going to make myself indispensable in a way that again, I never have to focus on me. I'm just going to give and give to everybody else, so I don't have to focus. If that's you, or if you know you've been that person, go ahead and say that's been me or that's me in the comment section, because Pastor Sheretta is giving us some good stuff.
And you asked me, what do I do now? So to be very candid, I have moments. Okay. I have moments where I naturally begin feeling myself about to revert back, like putting people on pedestals. Only God gets the pedestal.
Yeah.
You know, like overextending myself, okay, well, I need this person to value me, so I'm going to do that. And when God has already validated you, God already values you. And so it's an internal thing. It's like isolation is internal, freedom is internal as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Nobody can free you. You've already been freed, but you have to now free yourself.
Walk it out. Yeah.
And so I had to start the work, and I think it's a perpetual thing.
Absolutely.
Because like I said, there are moments where it's like, okay, I feel myself going back. I'm like, So I now can identify when it's happening or when it's about to happen. And I'm like, nope. I mean, right down to my children.
Say that last thing again.
Right down to my children. I'm just trying to show y'all something about our mental health. You know you're a good parent, and this is to the parents out there. All parents do the best they can with what they know. You can't do what you don't know. But like, I know I'm a good parent, but for whatever reason, my thing was, I'm gonna give my kids everything I never had. And you go too deep in that. You know, I want them to always feel like this, that, and the third. And next, you out here becoming a fire log again. You set yourself
right.
Again, and then you mad at them when they don't reciprocate or they don't maybe do the same thing for you. And they be like, they didn't even ask you to do that. You just did that because you feel some kind of way. So when I see little stuff like that, for me personally, I know, I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, what's going on? You know, what's happening? I'm here to help. I told you I'm gonna be transparent.
I appreciate you. So again, I'm hearing this journey has been just that, literally a journey of discovering, okay, I got this trauma. I'm uncovering this trauma. Where are you in the process of healing from that trauma?
Oh, I'm healed.
Hallelujah.
I'm healed. And this is the thing. I'm not just healed because by his stripes I was healed, because I believe all those things were covered. But I say I'm healed because it's manifested in my life. And the way I can tell is because of the fruit of my movement, the fruit of my motion, the fruit of I'm not a log. I'm not setting myself on fire. I say no without explanation. Like you. So I can tell.
Your healing manifests by you showing boundaries.
Absolutely. Right. I didn't have boundaries before. I had boundaries before. I did not have. It was so bad. It was so bad. I did not have boundaries, and I knew that there were people who didn't want me, but they wanted what I represented, or they wanted what I could give them. And I knew it, and I would just still do it. Craziness.
I'm just gonna let that pause for a minute. I'm not.
And it had a nerve.
I knew you didn't want me. I wanted.
You mad at the people who don't really want you. You know they don't want you. They just want what you have and what you represent. But you keep feeding listen, you should be mad at yourself. I said, Sheretta, get your whole. I said everything will line up for me when I align correctly inwardly. And at first, people, it was like, oh, you changing, and is. And
we'll continue. I love it. Because those boundaries are huge. And I tell people all the time, this is one of the things, if you listen to me long enough, I'm going to probably talk about boundaries, because most of our life, we didn't set a boundary somewhere, either with ourselves, with somebody else. And we allowed and expected things that were not realistic. We allowed and expected things that were not healthy. So when you start to move differently, people around you also start to move differently. When you say, I'm not accepting that, people either going to fall off or they're going to, shift some things in the way they approach you. So how did your family start to shift when you started establishing boundaries?
They shifted.
They shifted all right, huh?
Because this is the thing. So I got to preference it, but I got to say this first. I was a quiet, let anything go kind of chick. I had no bound. So for me, that's what no boundaries look like. But the moment I started speaking up, sometimes people were uncomfortable, and I was like, "Okay, you're gonna be all right." And so because it's like you started, and there's somewhat of a storm, and it's not that they're against you. It's just that for double-digit
Right.
years, this is what they've always gotten. And one day you wake up and you like, huh? You know what I
Right.
mean? They like, who is this? Who this Hoppo? So it was a little rocky, but then everybody, just got on board. And they're like, oh, okay. My daughter was very happy because she always felt like, Mom, oh, you got, like, you don't have to do all this stuff. Why are you doing all of this stuff? Meanwhile, I'm like, but you taking it. If you're going to do it, I'm going to tell you.
Right.
Touche.
No, I think that's really powerful. And I tell people all the time, when you establish boundaries, it's like telling the kid who's never had a bedtime, now you have to go to bed at 8. They're not going to accept that initially. But if you keep telling them they have to go to bed at 8 and you keep establishing that, their bodies start to align and they start getting sleepy at 8 o'clock. They start, and so I think that's really powerful that you shared. It was shaky there for a minute, but I had to stay with it. And that's what people mess up with boundaries. They'll do it and they go, they didn't like it. They fuss, they push back. What did you expect them to do? They've had free reign this whole time. So yes, they're going to push back. That doesn't mean you are messing up because you're establishing the boundaries. They just have to adjust to them. Now, I want to shift just a little bit and talk about, because we don't have a lot of time. I want to talk about, I know your mom transitioned. Was that last year or was it?
It was, it was, well, Lord, yes. What year are we in? It's been a year.
I'm like, I'm not sure. 2023.
What year Yes, it's been a year.
Okay, so I know that was just another trauma, another big life transition for you. How did you go through that grieving process, and how, if at all, did that trigger any physical flare-ups for you?
Great question. Yes. So my mom got ill in August. Literally, the day before I took her to the hospital, I was in Maryland to visit her as a surprise, and ended up taking her to the hospital. And so the Lord told me in September that my mom wasn't coming home the way that I thought. And this is the weird part. No doctor had yet said that she was fatally ill. That didn't come about until, I want to say, November.
Wow.
So I'm like, what? Now, during that time, because I was going back and forth, I was traveling a lot back and forward to Maryland to help, to care for my mom. It took a toll on my body. Right? And I'm just being very candid. When you have bouts of chronic pain, it takes everything in you to move. But my love for my mom, it was almost like I'm taking my life for your life, like whatever you need to do, like long nights, all day, whatever. And so I was physically having challenges during that time. And I'll be candid. I remember one particular day, and anytime you're doing, and it's just, unfortunately, it's just the truth. Anytime somebody's ill or there's a funeral, you're planning, stuff happens, right? Your family may not be perfect. They can be amazing, but it don't mean we all perfect. And, we have different personality, things happen, right? So that was added stress. And then you have the stress, your other responsibilities, because life still goes on. Like, It doesn't stop. I remember I was on the phone talking to my older sister, and this was weird for them her in particular, because remember, they never seen me any other way. I'm on the phone bawling because I feel like I said, I don't know what a nervous breakdown feels like.
Yeah.
But I think I'm at the edge of it. Literally.
Wow.
I felt like there were 2 times during that entire process from August to January. I felt there were 2 moments where I felt like I was going to have a nervous breakdown. I was struggling in my body. I was trying to continue to manage the stuff I was managing. Shout out to my husband at FOFC, the leaders. They were maintaining ministry. It was overwhelming. It was like nothing I had ever encountered. Sometimes you feel like you've gone through the worst thing in your
Yeah.
life until the worst thing, the
Yeah.
next worst thing happens. And I felt like I was about to break. Like
Wow.
I'm crying. And my body is flipping out. Like there were times I would be upstairs with my mother and felt like I needed to go downstairs to the emergency room. I'm just being very, but I wouldn't because I knew that I was there and then I didn't want her to be by herself because, in the healthcare, when you go to these facilities, they don't always do what they're supposed to do and you got to be vigilant. So it was a lot. It was a lot. And I never forget once, we did the service and we had to, close out mommy's affairs and her space and all of that kind of stuff. And I remember one of my sisters, because she was spearheading that particular project, she was like, "Hey, Sheretta, you don't need to come back, because all we got to do is clean up and we can do that." I was on a plane that day.
So, I have to ask, why? Why did you feel like I have to be a part of it? All of those aspects.
I am glad you asked that question. And it goes back to what I initially said. I was raised and trained to be there for my mother. And so I don't want y'all to think I wouldn't have been there for my mother, but that's how I've always been with her. And so it was like this thing, like everything gone to the wind. I'm going in here and I'm gonna be there for my mother.
Yeah.
But it almost literally knocked me out. Like it was a situation and not many people knew about it.
Yeah. And I think those are those moments of saying, I can let my sister do this.
Yeah.
I can't not just in that situation, but in any situation. Sometimes we kind of put ourselves in this space of no, I have to be the one. I have to.
Yeah, that was how I was. And I regret it from not from the standpoint of physical, and then it can make your siblings feel some kind of way. And so I took ownership, later of some things. And I, even the service, because I was also my mother's pastor for 20 years. So I felt like, okay, I got to do the service. So I was stretched beyond to the point where I was about to pop. And then I came home and then, dealing with external family issue. It was just so much. I literally said to God at one point, and again, I'm being very candid. I said, I didn't know if I was going to have to choose my life or choose continuing to pastor.
Wow.
That's how dangerous it was for me physically. Like I felt like I was going to have to choose. I was going to choose my life.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I was going, because even in that, you think like the people ain't gonna go. Yes, they will. Like, come on. So yeah. So it was very, very. It was challenging, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm a woman of faith. God, I believe you. I've stood and I don't even understand why this is turning out this way. Like, so it was that. It was just, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, I do not understand. Like, what is happening?
What did you learn through this process?
Wish I could say it again.
What did you learn through that process?
A lot. One, you don't have to be all things to all people.
Yeah, I put that in the comments.
You see, right. You can't be all things to all people. Self-care is a priority. It's okay to say no. Do what you need to do for yourself. Like, and you got to be honest with yourself. Like, I talk about being, vulnerable with other people. You got to be vulnerable with yourself and be willing to look at the stuff, feel the effects of it, because when you're looking at stuff that's not so favorable about maybe how you feel about something, it's uncomfortable. It really is. You have a reaction. It's uncomfortable because you want to always be the chosen one. You want to always feel good about stuff. You want to always feel like shine the light on my positive stuff. You don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that other stuff. You don't. But you have to be willing to look at it, sit in it. So for me in the past, the moment I felt an adverse reaction, stage right, we ain't sitting it. But now I don't do that. I allow myself to sit in it, deal with it, own what I need to own, and make the changes I need to make. But I choose me. I told my whole family that. I choose me. I was trying to make people feel a
Mm-hmm.
certain way about me who clearly didn't feel that way about me. And I had to hold on, y'all. I had
Mm-hmm.
to have, okay, I don't care. I'm not taking that care.
Thank you.
I'm not taking that care.
And I want you to keep choosing you.
Yeah, I'm not taking that care. So if I did something, listen, I'll own it. I'll apologize. But
Mm-hmm.
beyond that, I am not going to spend my life trying to fix you to come this way. No, not going to do it. So I'm still growing, but I grew a
Mm-hmm.
lot from that, and in a good way, in a better way. And I'm still, evolving and growing.
Yeah. I think that's really good. And I think you're helping people. I can see in the comments over here because so many people, they do. And you talked about when I'm doing that, there is a need that is getting met for you as well. When I'm being the everything to everybody, I like the validation that comes from that. I like the accolades, even if it's oh, look at Sheretta, she's like, we like those things, right? And so we have to be honest with ourselves and say there's a reason I'm not establishing some boundaries here. There's a reason, and to be willing to do that soul work that you've done to help you say, yeah, I'd rather give validation another way than this.
Yeah, this right here is when
It
and so it just continue to believe God with me. This season that I'm in right now of chronic pain is just, it feels almost worse than the prior years, to the point where it's almost debilitating. And because I don't look like it, I thank God I don't look like it actually, but because I don't look like it, a person can't tell. And then I do try to mask it, but and I'm not going to go all into it, but you witnessed something where you saw, because remember I said I'm still working on letting people know I need something or whatever, where my dear friends were, talking to me all because they wanted to help me. Like, hey, say something, say something. But
Yeah.
again, breaking that habit or trying to take the cloak of that off of you.
Mm.
It's easy to say, like, oh, you just decide and you do it. Baby, you got to chop this thing up.
Yes.
Because when you used to a certain thing and you used to being the person and you're used to, even whether you put yourself out there to be the person or people relied on you, it's just like, yeah, but yeah, I'm taking that thing, I'm chopping that thing up bit by bit.
No, I think that's powerful. And I'm glad you said it like that because so much of what we do as a response to trauma, it's so closely attached to who we identify as. When it starts coming off, it feels like you're ripping off parts of who you are. And
Yeah.
that's scary. That's why people say, no, I know it may not be healthy, but give it back to me because it feels so scary and so vulnerable when that starts coming off. And I believe God knows that. I know he knows that. And so he does. Sometimes he'll set us free in, let me just take this piece. Let me take that piece. Because if you ripped off the whole layer,
Ooh.
we'd be laid out for 2 or 3, 20 years trying to, and so he says, let me take this part off. Let me take this part off in that process. And that's why it's important for us to be patient with ourselves as we are growing and becoming, because you may have 50 layers under there. One
Yeah.
layer, you're like, oh, that feels good. Yeah, he's got some more. He's going to keep coming, but he's going to come in a way and a time that allows us to heal as we're going and not just totally expose us to all the elements at once. So I love that. We are definitely joining you with our prayers of the physical manifestation of your healing, and also as you start taking off some of those emotional things that you've carried as a result of some of those traumas. Is this helping y'all? I see in the comments. Let us know if this is helping y'all. Share this video. Any parting words? I want to say first, thank you so much for joining. I think this is powerful, and I wanted you to come on. I was like, you know what? I know somebody who's going through something, but the way they handle it is not just a I'm going to curl up and give up mentality. And I wanted somebody to see that diagnosis may be out there, but life doesn't have to
Amen.
stop. You can still live and still have the challenges as you are living and dealing with that.
Amen. My parting words would be fight to move. So this movement I'm talking about isn't the movement of you trying to mask the pain, but you got to move in spite of the pain. You might not be able to do certain things the way you did, but you got to find a way to do something. And I
Yeah.
say that because I know, not believe, I know that I would have gone on to be with the Lord a lot, a long time ago, had I just laid down in the bed.
Yeah.
And so I fight to move. And so you got to fight to move. Get people, pick the people in your life that you can be vulnerable with, you can cry with, you can tell them how you're really feeling. They'll listen. Get some affirmations, get the scriptures pertaining to what you're dealing with at that time. See, if at that moment you need a particular, if you're believing God for manifest the healing, you're not spending your time in finances. Although finances are important, but finances don't matter if you dead. At least not for you.
Right.
So you need to transform your renew your mind as it relates to that. Speak it so that you can hear it. Faith will come and you can hear your own words going back, to you. Again, be vulnerable, but please move. Don't just lay there and take it. I according to doctors, when I was first diagnosed, I was told that I wouldn't be alive by this time. I was supposed to be gone.
Wow.
Like gone. Like you probably will be gone in about 5 years or so, And so I know what it's like to sit across a doctor and a doctor say that to you. And so you have to fight for your life. You have to, decide, I'm not yielding my power, my life over to everybody and anything. It is okay to pick you. God picked you.
Yeah.
Pick yourself. Stop
Pick yourself.
Your physicality, your mental health, your well-being, and putting it in the hands of other people, even people who love you. Because people who love you, they may be well-being, but they're not doing what's best for your well-being. And so only you are the person who gets to decide what that looks like. And so, I mean, I don't know if we have time for questions. If anybody has a question, I don't have a problem answering it. But thank you so much. I am honored again to be here. I hope that something that I've said really helps you guys. I might have to bedazzle my little cane, because let me tell you something. I had bedazzled crutches.
That's so you.
Walker. If I'm gonna use an aid, ain't nothing wrong with an aid. It's gonna fit me.
That's so you. That's so you. So Pastor Sheretta said, if you guys have questions, you can put those in the comments. As you are thinking about your questions, I'm going to share a couple of announcements, because I do want you guys to have the opportunity to share, and I always forget my announcements, so I'm going to remember today. If you have not followed me on my page, Tenetria Williams Public Figure, go and like that page. Also, go to YouTube. We are broadcasting on YouTube as well. Like and subscribe there. And if you have a little person, little meaning under the age of 16 and over the age of 7, sign them up for my upcoming class. We start tomorrow with the ages, I think, 7 to 9. I'm doing a class called All These Feelings, and it's basically teaching children at various ages how to identify their feelings, how to cope with their feelings in a healthy way, and to verbalize their feelings and thoughts in a respectful way. So if you have a kid, it's only $20. If you have a child, grandchildren, cousins, nephews, sign them up before it's this weekend, so you don't want to miss it. It will be recorded if they can't catch it, but I promise you they want to try to be there, because it's going to be really interactive, and we're going to do scenarios and having them go through all this. It's virtual, so it doesn't matter where they are. Sign up for that. I will put the link in the comment section. Thank you, Tiffany, for putting that page there for me. I appreciate you. And so, did you guys have any questions? That was our public service announcement while we wait for the questions to come through.
What's the age limit again?
We start at 7, and so they're broken down into 3 different groups. I think it's 7 to 9, 10 to 13, I think, and then 14 to 16.
Okay. I'm gonna see if I can get my baddie in, because I think that I really think that that's definitely something that children need. It doesn't even mean they have to be having a problem.
It doesn't. That's what I was trying to tell people. I was like, sometimes you just need to know how to express yourself. It doesn't have to be trauma. It doesn't have to be this big thing. It's just, I need to know to tell my mama. I really don't like when she does that, but I don't want to be disrespectful. So I want to learn how to find my voice. All of that is important and part of that.
Somebody said, when is it?
It is this weekend. So the class for 7 and 9 is Friday night. Saturday night is the other age, and Sunday night is the higher age. Karen, you can go to my page and see the flyer. I just posted the link for registration in the comment section as well. Do we have any questions for Pastor Sheretta? This has been so good. It has been so good. I would say, did it help you out? But I already know it did.
Thank you again. It definitely has been an honor, and I do pray that it definitely helps somebody to at least open up.
So before we go, tell everybody how they can connect with you. How I know you are selling things. You have all of these products that are amazing. Tell people how they can reach you and how they can be a part of what you're doing.
Okay, so I've been working diligently to make it one place where you can go get in and everything that I offer. And so if you go to my website, www.sherettagalladay.com, if you go there, everything, my handbags, makeup, Toro, coaching, just everything. Anything that I have is on that page. Thank you, Tiffany.
I was just about to do it. Good.
Subscribe. That way you won't miss anything. So when I do exclusive things, sales, events, all of the good stuff. I also do a blog called Dose of Faith. But you can subscribe to the website, but if you want to receive the blog automatically when I post it, you also have to subscribe to the blog separately, but you can do that on the site. I think I've written 4 so far. And so, yeah, go subscribe, go check it out. Everything is over there. Yeah, but this was absolutely awesome. It's amazing. You're so welcome, Kimberly. She said, no questions. Thank you for your transparency. Listen, forever, I'm going to be transparent because I think it helps people. I ain't gonna tell all my business.
You told enough to help, so we appreciate that. Again, thank you guys.
Now I'm gonna take my medicine because I couldn't do it on this because I'm like, I'd be over here looking crazy.
Well, you're gonna take your medicine. We are praying for you. We're praying, for all of those areas, physically, emotionally, all of that. There was something else I was about to say, and in my mind just. Oh, join us next week. Every Thursday, we're right here. Next week, we have the anointed Miss Santrisa Marie. And so she's going to be our guest, and she's just going to be talking about how God delivered her from depression and suicide and took her to an amazing place. So you want to make sure you join us at that time. Thank you, Pastor Sheretta. Thank you guys for joining. Make sure you join us right back here next Thursday at 12 a.m. Central Standard Time. 1 p.m. I said a.m. again, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time where we are. So I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.